Hey creative friends, welcome to this video where I'm going to tell you about my art style. I hope it doesn't sound too self-indulgent, but I recently changed it and I wanted to tell you a little bit about how I did that and why I did that. I thought it would be kind of a cozy video where I could just show you some stuff I've drawn and talk about it. Maybe it'll be inspiring or maybe kind of help you figure out what you need to do to figure out your art style. Not saying I have like the best method ever, this is just what I did and I'm very happy with the end result. So yeah. And we're just gonna hang out, and it's very windy outside. Hopefully the mic is not picking that up. But yeah, it's winter and it's like cozy vibes in here right now. So I hope we can just have a little chit chat. I don't know why I said I hope, it's happening. Hope you stick around for it. Okay, I'm gonna put this video into 3 parts. First part, we're gonna talk about why I did the change and sort of why I decided that I wanted to update my art style. Second part, I'm gonna show you like what I did before and what I've done recently. And the third part is I'm going to tell you like the step-by-step on what I did to figure out how I wanted to make my style different. So we'll start with why. And why is really tied into like my business goals. I am an artist. Maybe that's not the most inspiring way to start. I make lots of kinds of art. I do sculpture, I do just like crafts, but I would consider just crafts. I do textile stuff, I like sewing, I like making jewelry, I like doing rug hooking, and I love painting, lots of different mediums, I love pastels, and I love digital art. So I love all of it. This is not me saying I've picked one and I'm sticking with it. That's not it at all. It's that I decided that I want there to be a professional aspect of my business where I sell art, either not just my market business, but I want to also have like art I can license, or art I could do like a partnership with somebody, or I could have my art on greeting cards that aren't just sold by me, or I could have my art on fabric. And all of these goals are really achievable, I feel, and I've already done, like I have a Spoonflower store, you can buy fabric of my patterns, and I have an online shop, and I have greeting card lines at stores. I've done all that stuff, but I've done it enough to recognize that if I want to make it bigger, I need to get really clear on what my art style is that is for the public consumption. Does that make sense? I'm just trying to like professionalize it a little bit. And I recognize that there's like 2 paths here. There's the art that makes me happy and that I just do for self-satisfaction. And there's art that I do that also still makes me happy. Don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna do anything I don't enjoy. It would be physically impossible for me. But it's art that I recognize has more of a purpose and I'm doing it with intention behind it. And yeah, I think they're both completely valid. But I always really envied people who, like, you look at their Instagram feed, for example. An Instagram feed for an artist is kind of like, it could be a day in the life, but a lot of the time it's kind of like a snapshot of like your portfolio. It's sort of, here's what I'm making lately. And I would look at other people's pages and think, wow, they have like such a clear voice and I know what to expect. And each piece is unique, but like it's representative of them. And I look at my feed and I feel some of that feeling about my own art. But I'd also feel like, wow, there's a lot of miscellaneous stuff here that is hard for people who want to buy something to feel like I have clarity in what I'm trying to do to present to them. So I do feel like I'm kind of on a journey with this. I'm not by any means suggesting I'm done, but I do think that there's like, I don't know, I've figured some things out and it feels really good. So that's the why of why I'm doing this. It's basically because I have some business goals with my art business that having a cohesive, identifiable style would be really helpful for. And again, all that being said, that doesn't mean I'm going to stop doing the other kind of art I do or like making stuff. I do lots of videos on this channel that are just like me making things. I'm not changing any of that. It's just that the art that I'm publishing as a portfolio looks different. So that's the why. Let's look at some examples. Let me show you my art. Now everything that I'm going to show you is digital art. I've got my iPad here because I'm going to just pull up the pictures as I talk to you about them. So first let's talk about like the art I was doing before, and it's not really right. It's not like there was like a before and after. This is just art I've made previously. And the 4 examples that I pulled are here to show you. I picked these 4 because they have been some of my best-selling designs, and each of them has informed my new style in a different way. So I thought I'd just talk about the pieces if that's interesting to you. So the first one that I want to talk about is my capybara. This has been my bestseller overall at markets and events. I think part of that is because of that capybara song on TikTok. I didn't know about it before I drew the capybara, but a lot of kids did, and I sell a lot of my prints either to young people or to their parents when they come to my booth. So, and yeah, but sorry, if you haven't seen my videos before, I sell at a lot of art markets. That's kind of my main way of selling my art, but I'm trying to pivot to other avenues next year. Anyways, the capybara. I drew this picture styled after the painting that Monet did of his wife on a hill. I don't think a lot of people see that, but that's where the posing is from. I love the texture of the clouds in the background. I think they look like cotton candy. I love the rainbow colors that are kind of incorporated throughout this. I also love the kind of serene expression on the face. I think the expression is what's gotten a lot of the attention for this piece. And I also like the way I did the leaves and the flowers and everything. So overall, I really like this piece. My criticism of it is that it's not very narrative. It's just sort of a capybara on a hill. There's no story there. Not that every piece has to have a story, but if I'm critiquing my own work, that's something I see like, well, there could be more in this picture. Yeah, that's sort of my critique of this one. The second piece that I pulled is the Cat's Breakfast, Angry Cat's Breakfast, which I love. And I started doing these kind of angry cat pictures because they just made me laugh. And I just like their little faces a lot. And I drew this one randomly. I really don't have any inspiration for it. I just was thinking about breakfast and I drew it. And people just, it makes them laugh, and that's why I made it. And I actually have this one over my desk and it makes me laugh every single day. What I like about this is not just the colors, but the brushes I used and the way I shaded. I like I think this is the pastel, soft pastel, maybe the oil pastel brush on Procreate. And I'm more into this soft pastel brush now. But I just really liked how textured, and like the other picture was, the capybara had the texture as well. But this one, it like really came through. There's a lot of like, people think it's not digital art. And I'm not trying to trick anybody. I like that it's got substance, you know? And like, I like the way the cat's tummy is shaded. I think there's like a very gradual color change there for shading that I just really like. And so that's what I kind of pulled from this piece, sort of more of the toothsomeness of the texture. The next piece I pulled is Alexander Keith's Brewery. So this is an earlier one I did back when I was doing just like architecture buildings. So this is actually the earliest piece I have that I'm showing you. I love this piece. It took me like 15 hours to draw because of all the little bricks, and it absolutely killed my hand. I had to stop doing architecture drawings just because I would spend so much, like I get so hyper focused on them that I would spend too long working on them, and I was kind of hurting my hand a little bit. But this piece is very popular. It's an old brewery in Halifax, so people were buying it because it's like a local landmark. It's very different than my style in general. I think that's kind of obvious. But what I like about it is all the detail and like the attention to detail. And I think that in the way that I felt that the capybara was lacking some tiny details to like bring narrative into it, I think that this piece has more, maybe just in my eyes only, but it has more of like the tiny details that I want to bring out. Just in terms of like the, I don't know, the shadows, the sandwich board. There's just things in it that I really like. So that's what kind of inspires me about this piece. And the fourth one I'm showing you is Puppy's Picnic. Puppy's Picnic has been a bit of a turning point for me, and I really love this piece. People really love this. Ever since I drew it, it will sell out every time I do a show. It's my dog Ranger, it's my parents' dog, at a picnic having a bottle of wine and some cake. And I just think it's really funny. And the humor in a lot of these pieces is what really delights me. So I really don't want to lose that as I move into the other style. I think I'm still working on finding the humor in this new style because it's a little bit more finessed, but we'll talk about that more after. So Puppy's Picnic, what I really like about it is the narrative. There's a scene here, there's a story, like much like the cat, you look at it and you laugh, and it's because it's telling you something. You're not just looking at a static thing. I think I was getting closer to the more detailed backgrounds here, but I wasn't using the same kind of painterly, it's not painterly. I'm struggling with the words to figure out what I'm trying to describe as the art style, but this is a lot more abstract and has some shapes that I don't think I'm leaning towards anymore in terms of the way I constructed the botanicals. But you can see the texture, like in the blanket and the way the dog's shaded. So yeah, I still love this picture. And this isn't to say that I'm not going to like sell these prints anymore. I'm not really sure about that. I still have lots of them, so I probably should bring them to markets. But yeah, so this is the snapshot of my old art style, in that these are just lots of different art styles that I like and that I can do. Yeah, so let's move on to look at what I consider my new style for commercial, not commercial purposes. That sounds too sterile. It's just for my portfolio's sake. I'm just trying something. Let's just say that. This is the new style for what I'm trying. So here are the 4 pieces I pulled as examples of this new style. I think that you can immediately tell there's a color palette that I'm working from for this collection. There's also like some seasonality. A lot of the pieces I've done lately have been winter themed, and that's because it's winter right now. So I'm trying to build like a rolling collection as the year progresses. So yeah, but let's talk about these pieces one by one, and I'll tell you sort of what I'm thinking about with them. And then we'll go into how I made that transition. I have like a list of like a couple things I did. So the first piece is the deer in the winter scene. I love this piece. I think it's probably my favorite one I've done so far. It wasn't the first one I did by any means, but I think what I love about it is the contrast of the deer with the glow of the moon. The way I shaded the trees are all things that I'm very proud of with this piece that make me feel like, wow, I really did that. And I've also started doing a artist mark instead of signing them, which I like a lot. It's in red. It's a little square, just says Lucky Sprout Studio in it. And I think it just kind of looks professional. I don't know. I like it. So that's what I'm doing. I might not do it forever. So like the difference here between like this and the capybara picture, for example, is it's still just a picture of a single animal standing somewhere. But I think there's a lot more drama to it because we have other elements pulled in that are still features. Like we have the moon, we have the shadows, we have the silhouettes of the trees. Like there's just more dimension, there's more happening in this scene. And I think that's what makes me feel more satisfied by it. I've also framed it with those brown trees around the sides, and I like that it kind of doesn't make you feel, I don't know, a night scene can make you feel lost and scared if it's too big and dark, but if it's framed in by warm colors, it makes you feel cozy. Does that make sense? The second picture I pulled is this fox in pajamas. I think he's really funny because I think his expression is very defiant, and I love the personality coming through when I'm doing these more anthropomorphic animals, just in that they're wearing clothes and standing on 2 feet. They're still just animals. I was inspired by this one from Fantastic Mr. Fox. It is my favorite movie. And the character of Ash was kind of what went into this. So if you know that movie and that character, you'll see that personality here. But I wanted to do a red fox. And I'm working on building up sort of a figurative language in the way that I shape these animals. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a sec. But this is how I'm trying to do foxes. And you'll see a fox in the next picture too. It's sort of similar, I don't know, similar method of drawing. And I'm also trying to not just do scenes, like this is just a character on a pattern backdrop. I don't want to just do scenes because they take a lot longer to make, and I just feel they're a little restrictive sometimes. Sometimes I just want to draw a cute little guy, and that's what I did. But again, the color palette is cohesive. I just think he's really funny. The third piece I'm going to show you from my new collection. It's not really in my collection. I didn't post this one online. This is just one I drew for my brother, of him and his dog. And he works at the sea salt company that my family runs. So I wanted to draw like him and his hip waders with the dog out by the beach. Kind of like, I don't know, an East Coast picture. I did this one as a challenge to myself to see if I could draw people in this new style I'm developing. I have never been someone who draws people. I draw animals and objects and flowers and places. People have always really freaked me out because I just have never been able to figure out how stylistically I approach them. So I think this is really cute. I think it is still in the same vernacular as the other things I've been drawing in the animals. It doesn't look like a different style exactly. So I'm just happy with this. I liked the colors I used. I like the shading. I don't think there's that much else to say about it other than just like first attempt at drawing people. I'm going to keep working at it. I actually have some mermaids I'm drawing right now, and I think they turned out pretty cute, so we'll see. The fourth one from the new style is this picture, which took me so long to do because I drew it in layers. So I did the full backdrop, and then I drew the table, and then I drew all the chairs. So each of the objects, if I like turned off the layers, is like a complete drawing. I don't know why I drew it this way. It was just because I think I was procrastinating adding the characters because they are really, really cute, but poses kind of intimidate me, like having to put them into furniture. So I was nervous about that, but I think it turned out well. I like the expressions. I like that they're all eating pie. There's some humor, I guess, and like the little squirrel on the floor has got pie all over his face, which I think is cute. I do really like this piece. I also have some criticisms of it. For example, the fox on the floor and the rug are kind of the same color. I tried out some other colors to make them different. Like I tried changing the rug, changing the fox, and all of the changes just made it stood out too much from the rest of the piece. So I decided that I was overworking it. I should leave it be. But there's some contrast issues there in my opinion. But I think this was a really great learning piece for me about just adding lots of details. There's things in this picture I really like, the patterns on the pots, some of the details of the berries in the pie. Like they're really subtle, so unless you really zoomed in or this was really blown up, you wouldn't really see them. But like I drew a pretty pattern in the table. I really think it's cute. So I like some of the things I did here. And I also got to play a bit with shadows to try and make that light from the window coming out and illuminating things at the right angle. It's just a bit of a challenge. Yeah, but overall I like it. So yeah, so that's basically my style before and my style after I made this deliberate attempt to figure out a cohesive style. I love everything I've shown you today. I have shown you some of my favorite pieces, so that's obviously why I actually like them. I draw lots of things that I think, that's okay. Like I drew a bear on skis recently, and I really struggled with drawing the skis. I wanted them to be cross-country skis because I know that like the toe is the part that's connected on the cross-country ski. So that's fine, but when I showed my friend, he was like, why is his foot coming off the ski? I'm like, oh, it's cross country. He's like, I didn't know that's how they work. So I'm like, oh, everyone's gonna think I just drew a ski weird. I don't know. So there's still struggles. But let's move on. I'll tell you what I did specifically to develop the new style, like how I went about that. So the first thing I did to figure out how I wanted to change my style and like the actual steps to make that happen was looking at my pre-existing art and figuring out what I liked and disliked about it. So that's sort of what I just showed you. I talked through those pieces and told you what I liked and disliked. I did that in a bit more of a like formalized manner, made some notes and figured out the commonalities. In general, what I did like was the brushes that I was using in Procreate. I liked the bright colors that I tend to use. I liked the animal subjects. I still really enjoy drawing animals. And I also like showing animals doing things like the puppy's picnic. I like it to be animals doing human things, but sort of I'm very inspired by like Beatrix Potter, Wind in the Willows, like all those classic Toad and Frog, old British stories, I guess, of just like animals being country people. I don't know. I grew up on that stuff and that's what really speaks to me. So I think that kind of playfulness and narrative is what's showing up in my work. But the things I disliked in my work was the lack of just cohesion in terms of my color palettes. I didn't like that I was trying so many styles in the work I was putting out in the world. Not that I can't just do the fun art. I don't need to disclaim that anymore, but yeah, there was that. And I also didn't like the pieces that were just single subject without there being more narrative. I still like doing single subject pictures like the fox in the pajamas, but even by putting him in pajamas, there is some narrative there, and the expression plus the clothes plus the animal all does still create a little bit of narrative. And I think that just that little nudge is like what I needed to feel more fulfilled in those pieces. So once I figured out what I liked and disliked, I made a list of things to do. So here's what I did. Number one is I built a color palette that I wanted to work in. I have a feeling I'm going to change my color palette seasonally, but generally it's all going to be the same family of colors. That's to say, I like warm colors. I like my pieces to feel cozy and sunshiny, or even the night pieces when I use blues, I still want there to be warmth in those pieces. So I built that color palette in Procreate. And I just basically took some art pieces that I had made that I liked, and used that to select some colors from them, and then filled in the gaps where there was missing colors over time. And now I have this little color palette that I use for everything. Basically, anytime I start a new piece, I'm just like, okay, here's the sketch and here's the colors, and you just color it in with those colors. Does that sound too simple? That is generally what I'm thinking, though. I think the cohesive color palette makes a really big difference. The second thing I did was I created my own style guide of facial features and expressions, little details, and also botanicals. I did this in my sketchbook largely, where I just practiced drawing little faces until I figured out what the look was. And all the different woodland critters I draw have different nose shapes in particular and different face patterns. So that does help distinguish the different animals, but most of them will have similar eyes, which are like round with like a ring of white around them, which can be modified to change the expression or the personality of the character. For example, like the fox in the pajamas, it's a black circle with a white circle perfectly around it, and that gives him kind of an alarmed, frightened, nervous look, but kind of in a funny way. Maybe it's just funny to me, which was the point of the character. But for other characters, I've made the eyes, the white a little bit more angled or narrow to kind of show more direction where they're looking, or to show more gentle personality. It just varies. And in some pieces, I have also changed it from a circular eye shape to an oval. Again, I'm just kind of figuring it out. I think human drawings have better luck with oval eye shapes, but still working on that. Another detail is the way I do the ears. I find that figuring out ears for each of my common woodland critters makes it really easy to do new pieces, because I'm like, oh, this is how I draw fox ears. So that helped. And also I do blush on their cheeks, like a red circle, because I think it's just a very cute detail. And then, you get a little bit cohesive with the body shapes. I like my characters to be a little bit more round with shorter limbs. I just makes them cuter. I also kind of figured out style guide for the botanicals. So the way that I draw trees and plants and leaves and stuff is by no means a revolutionary way to draw them. They're sort of intended to be so simple they disappear into the piece. They're not the feature. That's how I think about it. But I just did a seaweed notepad recently, and I even found when I was drawing seaweed, like, the shapes are all really familiar to me. It's more about the way I color them and the way that I draw the texture on them with extra lines or something that distinguishes them from like a leaf on a tree. So I'm finding space within the style to still have flexibility and be able to make things look unique while still sticking to a style guide. Like I said, I started with that in my sketchbook and then have just kind of translated that into all the pieces I've done. The third thing I did was I started watching some documentaries on famous painters, and I've implemented some lessons I've learned from that. The biggest one that impacts my backgrounds, which is an area that I think typically I struggle with, is like backgrounds of pictures, is something I mentioned in a studio vlog, which was Turner, J.W.M. Turner, is that his name? His method of showing distance was unique in that instead of making things fainter, he just used color to represent distance. So like instead of making a far off mountain a very hazy gray to show that it's far away, because mountains are typically gray, he would make it like lavender. And that would be, it would still do the same effect, but it would create so much more atmosphere. So I've been experimenting with this a little bit when I'm drawing trees, because mostly I'm doing woodlands right now, and just trying to make layers that have different colors rather than different levels of intensity. I'm not suggesting I've figured this out yet, but that's in my head when I'm trying to do it. And that's to say that this point in my progress is all about learning from people who are good at painting, figuring out some of their secrets and their techniques, and listening to critiques of that work. So I've been finding basically just art documentaries on YouTube, and listening to what the people say about the art and what makes the pieces special. That's been actually really interesting and really useful. The fourth thing that I did to help change up my style was I planned a thematic collection. So instead of just drawing anything that came to mind, which has basically been my method for my entire life, I decided to do a winter collection, and I'm going to do a different theme every month. I've actually planned it out. Like I think January's theme, like December, I'm doing some Christmas drawings. January is going to be like naps and cozy spaces. February was, I think, snacks and pastries. March was transportation. I can't remember. I had like a plan. It is written down somewhere. But by giving myself these guidelines and sort of a loose time frame in which to be doing it, I was able to make more cohesive plans. Now, I've only been doing this for like my winter collection so far. Not suggesting that it's going to work out perfectly, but I think having a little bit of structure has been helpful. And also I'm enjoying breaking free of that structure for other pieces I'm making when I'm painting or making other projects. And the last two things I did, I'm going to repeat, but they are kind of things I already referenced when I was showing you my examples, was number 5 is to add small details, because small details really I find very charming. I remember in depth a lot of the picture books I read as a kid that had extra little narratives going on beyond the main story. I want to say Jan Brett, but I remember there was this picture book I really liked that had like running borders along the bottom that had like mice in it that told a separate story as we were reading it. I don't know. I think this probably happened in a lot of picture books that I'm familiar with, but I like little details, whether it's just a pattern on a sock or a little forgotten cup of tea in the corner or something that just shows narrative. And that's my 6th point, is to add narrative. And you don't really have to script out a story to add narrative. Like I said, it's part of that is just the little details. You know, I can draw a funny looking fox, but when I make his expression defiant and he's wearing pajamas, that's a character and we can guess where he's been and what he's been doing. Escaping from a sleepover, perhaps. But I think prioritizing narrative when I'm designing pictures or coming up with concepts for a piece has helped me feel more engaged with what I'm creating. I feel a little bit more proud to show it off because I feel like I'm not just showing a thing I doodled, but here's something I created. Like I don't know, it's just adds complexity that I find very satisfying. And I think simultaneously it complements my work and makes the collection a little stronger by having that narrative detail. Not all pieces need to have like big narrative. I would say that it's really important to have some that don't. Like I make patterns and I don't need every pattern I make for a book cover or like fabric to be like a whimsical tale. Some of them are just like a cute mouse and a leaf repeated. Like it doesn't have to always have narrative, but I think it's important to infuse it. I keep saying narrative as if like I assume everybody knows what I'm talking about, but I just mean that when you look at a picture, your mind can create a story out of what you're seeing, even if it's just a small story like this little fox escaped from a sleepover, or these animals are loving eating pie. I wonder who made the pie? Do they have an animal kitchen? Do they live in this house? Did they break in? Like, you can kind of create something out of it versus a picture that's just a little bit more like a still life, like that still has a ton of value. It's just different. That's all. So this might have been a little bit rambly. I hope it made sense. I'm feeling really good about my art these days. I'm actually going to wrap this video up and go work on another piece. And I really just enjoy doing that in the evening. Pretty much every night I work all day, make some food, settle in to like watch shows and draw on my iPad. It's a pretty nice way to spend the winter. Everything that I'm doing is still a work in progress. Like I'm not there yet. I don't think you ever get there. I think your style just continues to evolve. So right now this is where it is, but I do feel like I've made a conscious decision to change things and to reach a different point. And that's why I wanted to make a video about it and share that, because I think finding your style is something that we talk about a lot in the art world. I remember in school talking about it. I didn't study art in school. I avoided it as much as I could, but I did theater and then I did classics. So there was still a lot of art around and it was still a matter of discussion. So in terms of creating it, it's just a bit of a different pathway I've taken. But that's all. So I've talked a lot about my art. I would love to hear your thoughts on your art style. If it's something you've struggled with, if you've found anything that's been helpful, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to learn from you and maybe we can share ideas. I don't know, could be good. If you liked hearing about my art, I run an art channel. I'm trying to post more content that is actually me drawing and creating art rather than me just talking about the business of it, because that makes me make more art, which is a good thing to do. and and the reality of it is that it's hard to film the art process because the majority of it is me in my pajamas, in like a hoodie, under a blanket with my iPad. That's not very glamorous. Not very much something I want to put on the internet. I'm trying to come out of my shell a little bit, I guess, to share it. So I hope you like looking at my pieces. And do subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Give the video a thumbs up. I sit there after I post videos and I watch on my phone and see the little thumbs up number go, and I get so excited. So, and if there's a comment, you know I'm reading it. And you know I'm calling my mom to tell her about the nice ones. And they're all nice ones. All right, I'm gonna stop talking. I'm gonna go draw some mermaids or something. Hope you have a really great day wherever you are, or a great night, whenever. And I think you're the best. I don't know if you're struggling with anything right now, but in case you needed to hear it, you can do it. I really believe in you. Okay, bye.